Welcome to Sustain This, a podcast where we discuss mindful consumption, personal style, and the quest for living a more intentional life. I'm ALYSSA, a sustainable stylist.
And I'm Christina, a shopaholic turned minimalist-ish.
And I'm SIGNE, a color consultant and slow fashion style coach.
Together, we will unpack the nuances of what it really means to be a conscious consumer and find more joy in what we have right now. So grab your tea, your coffee, or whatever floats your boat and join us in the conversation. Let's go! Yay!
Yay! Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. We have a very exciting guest for you today, Kristi Soomer, the founder of the brand Encircled. And I think you're going to get a ton of value out of today's episode. We talk a lot about entrepreneurship, the challenges of being an entrepreneur in the slow fashion space. And there's a lot of great conversation about shifting your mindset to more of a slow, less but better, quality over quantity type of mindset when we do consume. It's a really great conversation. We had so much fun. And if you want to hear the full unedited interview, then definitely check out our brand new Patreon account. It's another great way that you can help support the podcast. On the Patreon, you'll get access to bonus content like full interviews with our guests, as well as a monthly Ask Us Anything podcast. So if you have any questions for Stina, ALYSSA, or me, then you can ask us directly and we'll answer that in a secret podcast over on the Patreon. So definitely check it out. No pressure, but if you want to support our work, it'll all be in the Patreon below. Now let's get into our interview with Kristi Soomer, the founder and CEO of Encircled.
Hey, Kristi, it's so good to have you here today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat with all of you.
Yeah.
Good, amazing. Yeah, we're so looking forward to it. And early in the morning, we were all just talking about how we like the early morning time, so this is great. Myself, I'm very familiar with Encircled. You have been doing the CEO entrepreneur in the slow fashion space for 12 years. You just celebrated an anniversary, right? Like 12 years in the business. So I think we're all familiar with your brand and your company, but our listeners might not be. So can you give us sort of the origin story of Encircled and your role, like how it came to be? Because I would say it's a pretty well-known Canadian like slow fashion brand. So can you give our audience a little bit of a back history?
Oh, thank you for saying that, ALYSSA. I still feel like we're, a little bit of a small fry in like a big market, but I appreciate that. So I started Encircled in late 2012. So we're actually celebrating our 12-year anniversary of me coming up with a product idea, which is what I started the business with, which is called the Crystal Cardi. So I started my career in management consulting. And if anybody knows anything about that career, you live in like an airport and on a plane typically, because you're always traveling to client sites. You don't really have an office. So I became somewhat obsessed with carry-on only travel, but I also didn't want to be uncomfortable. And I also wanted to be stylish. And so I had all these like requirements, and I just found it very frustrating, the fact that like my male colleagues could go, with just like a couple of ties and maybe switch out their shirt. But like as women, we have to have like this whole like wardrobe of outfits, but we're also supposed to like squish it into this tiny, tiny bag. So that was like the original genesis behind the idea for the Crystal Cardi. Was I was packing actually for a yoga retreat, and my suitcase broke, and I was like, had to stuff everything. This is at like 4 a.m. And I only had a carry-on. So I didn't have another suitcase. I couldn't even call a friend. I was leaving that next day. Like I was super last minute packing. And I started pulling all this stuff out. I'm like, why am I bringing a cardigan to Costa Rica? Why am I bringing like a scarf? Why am I bringing a jacket? Like I just really needed them for the plane. So then I came up with this idea for the Crystal Cardi, which is an 8-in-1 kind of cardigan, dress, scarf, top, skirt, all the things. So that's what I started the business with. And that idea kind of percolated. And like I've talked about a lot on my own podcast, I had no business starting this business. I have no fashion background. Like prior to consulting, I was in consumer packaged goods, retail. Like I have a finance degree and an MBA. So like I had no idea what I was doing, but I just had this passion for creating this product. And I knew I wanted to create it in a way that was like really good for the planet, and also in a very ethical way. And I knew I wanted to do it locally because I'd been in that retail industry and I'd seen kind of the other side of it. And I didn't want to be a part of that type of business. I wanted to build a business that I could truly feel good about.
That's amazing. How did you come up with that design to do an 8-in-1? That's so like to have no fashion background and then come up with this like MacGyver of a cardigan dress, all that. It's like, that's I don't know. It's fantastic. How did you come up with that?
Yeah, it's so funny. I posted on Encircled's Instagram the other day, like literally me cutting, like there's like fabric on the floor of my condo that's like across the street from here.
Yeah.
I don't even know like what I was thinking, like at the time, like these circle scarves were really popular, and I remember thinking I'm obsessed with that idea of like a circle, full circle fashion, infinity, like abundance, and I was like, okay, what if I was able to like, you know, create this scarf wear, because at the time there were these like tie kind of wrap kind of things and they looked really messy. So I was like, what if I was able to put like snaps on it and use better fabric, and then you could like hide the snaps and then it looks like a dress when you're wearing it as a dress. And I just became like somewhat crazy, like a mad scientist in my kitchen. I was like, Velcro, snaps, like doing all this stuff, trying to figure out. I bought a sewing machine off of Craigslist for like $40, broke it the first time I used it because I have no idea how to sew. And just kind of worked through it and got my friends to come over and tried things out. The actual original version of the Crystal Cardi had like 24 snaps on it or something absurd, which I couldn't even figure out how to use it. So now it has like 6, which is much more manageable. But yeah,
does it come with a manual, or does it like
it actually does. Yeah, it comes with, we have like a little pamphlet thing, but we have videos online of how to do all the looks and stuff like that, because it is a little bit tricky at first, but it's still like our most popular piece in a lot of ways. Cool. Like we don't promote it as much anymore, just because, especially during the last like 4 years, travel wasn't really as big, but it still kind of just sells itself, which is amazing.
It sounds like you found like a hole in the market or something that people would really need. I feel like that's often where like great designs come from, you know, great design ideas come from, you know, finding that hole in the market and then targeting it directly at that.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a fashion designer. So like this is the thing, like I design a lot for function. And I would say like over the years we've evolved quite a bit in that respect and gotten sometimes a little bit more into the fashion pieces, but my bread and butter and where I'm the best is at like functional, comfortable, versatile pieces. And that's like some of our most popular pieces, like the dressy sweatpant is another one that I invented on a work trip as well. And that's our #1 bestseller and has been for like 8 years. So
I have that
a lot of like the best ideas, I feel.
Yeah,
you do.
Sorry.
Yeah, a lot of the best ideas are born out of a need. And like, and to this, like with slow fashion, I think the important thing for like founders who are listening to this, it's like, it's difficult to just be like a slow fashion brand. Like you have to do something to stand out. And often that's connecting with your customer and figuring out, you know, what they want, what they need, how you can really add value to their life and differentiate yourselves versus just being, you know, I'm a slow fashion brand and I make things ethically, which is great. I love that. But what else are you to people?
Yeah. And how do you make that connection with your audience and your customers to figure out what they do need, especially at the beginning?
I think I was my customer at the beginning for sure. Like I was, you know, that person. I was in the middle of like a really high powered corporate career, like super busy, like flying all over the place. But now it's different, right? Because I live a totally different lifestyle than that. And so we have like a Facebook group where with I think about 1,500 customers where we chat all the time. Like we do little surveys, we do little polls, like what are you looking for in like spring fashion, summer fashion? That's how we came up with, like, we recently did like our own kind of Kickstarter style summer launch. And we weren't really sure about linen. We're like, would our customer like linen? Because they really like stretchy fabrics. So we did a lot of research and we put out some design ideas in a survey. And, you know, those designs kind of floated to the top. So we're like, let's try it. So I think that's the best thing about having an online business is that when you're direct to consumer, you can really connect with the customer one-to-one. Like we've even done interviews with the customers, like, just call them up and been like, you want to chat and stuff like that. And they're always happy to help, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's really nice. I love that you're not like just aimlessly designing stuff and then hoping that it will like that you're actually, you know, researching the market and to see it's just something that people would actually want to buy.
Yeah, we design with intention. I think that's so important for me personally, because I'm not the type of person who can be like inspired by like green grass in the air or something or some beautiful flower to come up with a my brain just doesn't work like that. I'm always like, how can I like I'm working on a design right now called the Undenim Jacket. And it's like an elevated take on a denim jacket that has like the function, the comfort of it, but it's like something you could wear to work. So like I'm always kind of inspired by, solving some sort of problem for our customers and an opportunity.
Love that.
You mention a lot, like you mentioned you have your own podcast, Kristi, and on it you focus on e-commerce. Can you tell us what it's like being an entrepreneur in the slow fashion space? Like, what are your biggest struggles? You talked about connecting with the consumer and how it's really important to have a point of view, but like where are the challenges?
Ooh, I love this question. So yes, there are a lot of challenges. I think one of the biggest challenges that a lot of slow fashion brands we're still a small segment of the market, right? I think it's about 4% of the market is slow fashion of the overall like fast fashion pie, mass fashion pie. So that's like really small. It's maybe doubled in the last like 5 years. That's still like a very niche segment. So I think number one is top of funnel awareness, like how people are finding out about slow fashion brands. I'm in like a slow fashion founders like WhatsApp chat with a couple of Canadian founders who are incredible. And we're really focused on collaborating together to get more awareness overall, because that's the hardest thing is how do people find us in this universe where I'm sure as like influencers and content creators, like you've noticed, like organic reach is down, paid reach is being favored, and even paid reach is becoming a little challenging, and the PR landscape's changing. So there's like all these mechanisms in play that aren't really favoring like a smaller brand with like more limited budgets and resources. So I would say that's the first challenge. The second challenge would be like pricing probably, and getting your product priced right for the market, because inevitably slow fashion is going to have to be more expensive just because of all of our supply chains. I mean, with Encircled, we produce locally, small batches. We're knitting half our fabric here. That's a very expensive endeavor. But then when customers see you and they don't really understand slow fashion, they're comparing you to, Lululemon or somebody like that who doesn't have the same, even close to the same structure, or they're comparing you to like a VC funded brand like Everlane, who's taken like $200 million in venture funding. And it's like, we can't price like that. We have to price for profit, which can be a big barrier for people to kind of actually purchase from you. So those are the two I would say that come to mind the most, that accessibility factor. And then, figuring out what your customer wants and bringing it to them, because like you want to do your best in like inclusivity and sizing and inseams and all this kind of stuff. But again, as a small brand, you add an additional size, that's an additional like, could be an additional $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $25,000 in inventory. And some small brands just can't afford that.
Yeah.
They don't have the cash flow and funding. So those are some of the challenges, but I feel like I could talk about this for the whole podcast if you wanted to. But there are solutions, I think, to some of these emerging, but there really needs to be more collaboration, I think, in the industry overall, not just between founders, but between governments, organizations, as well as like the media and general industry as well.
Can you talk about a little bit how do you come up with your pricing? A lot of customers coming in might be quite used to paying, a certain amount for a certain type of dress. So how do you kind of convert people into that quality over quantity kind of mindset when it comes to slow fashion? Because it can be price can be a barrier for a lot of people.
Yeah, I would say like a lot of what helps us the most is probably like our reviews of our products that talk about the longevity. So a lot of our customers will say, I've had, the dressy sweatpants for 8 years and they still look brand new. And we hear that all the time. Somebody just mentioned they had original Crystal Cardi from like 2013 and it still looks fantastic, which is
That's
crazy
awesome
to me because it's modal. So it's like meant to break down. So I'm like, oh, that's good. But yeah, it is about promoting that longevity. We do a lot of content around mixing and matching, like how to style a capsule wardrobe. We're really obsessed right now with this 3x3 kind of packing wardrobe methodology. So we've been shaping our collections around that and showing how to pair things over and over again and really teaching our customers that outfit repeating is totally cool. Like it is not cool to like just throw out an outfit once after wearing it. Like there's something to, you know, taking care of your clothes and really honoring the people who made them by doing that as well. So we focus a lot on that, but it is a lot of education and a lot of heavy lifting for brands like us that we have to do. Because $178 for sweatpants sounds probably insane to some people. But I mean, if those pants, you're going to wear them every single year for like maybe every week or something like that, or sometimes twice a week, like the cost per wear on that is so low that you have to get people's mindsets around that. Whereas, you know, I have all my special occasion dresses are hanging back there in that closet. And like one of them, you know, was $500 and I wore it once. And I don't know if I'll ever wear that again. And like, what a waste of resources. Like I can definitely reposh it or whatever, but like, you know, that's not a great use of, you know, really, I feel like customers need to overinvest more in basics and underinvest in occasion wear, because that's what we wear every day. Right.
Yeah. I really love how you focus on functionality and like maximizing your wardrobe. We've talked about that on the podcast too, like the trifurcating of your wardrobe and kind of trying to blur the lines a little bit more so that you can wear items across, you know, Christina, I believe you say across work and play. Yeah, because I feel like you say, functionality is so important to everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, we put pockets in everything.
Must have pockets. Must have pockets.
We just launched a dress with 4 pockets in it. 4 pockets in a dress because that's how much people love pockets. But yeah, we are always focused on function, because the more functional and comfortable the design is, and the better the fit is too. Like this is what I don't think people realize about fast fashion, is that like oftentimes those garments are never fit on a human body. They're just done from like a tech spec and maybe put on a Judy or a dress form and then gone to production. Nobody's checking the grading. Nobody's checking the fit, how it sizes up. Like all those brands, like slow fashion brands, myself included, we're all doing that. Many of us are sampling multiple sizes just to check the fit. We're doing wash testing, wear testing. We're going through this whole process. It's very thoughtful to create a design that does last and fit, that you'll actually wear. So there's so much more behind that I feel like consumers miss out on. And I think they assume that like fast fashion brands do that. But if you've ever bought something from fast fashion, you come and like the armhole is like a totally weird size or whatever. And the strap is over here. It's no accident that happened. They just don't care.
Yeah.
You know?
And you think it's something wrong with your body at the end of the day instead of the garment fitting you. I also find, is this true? I've heard that for the care labels, like if they don't want to do the work in terms of how to actually like wash and launder the garment, they'll just stick a dry clean only on there, and it's kind of like lazy labeling.
100%. Yeah, I've heard that too. Yeah, because they just don't want to like test it to see what happens, and dry clean is kind of, they know people won't do it probably also.
Yeah, that's right.
Expensive.
Yeah.
What are, Kristi, you were talking about like all these kind of ins and outs of slow fashion and being a slow fashion brand. Like what are some other things you wish consumers knew that you think that maybe would help them shift their mindset to a more slow fashion closet?
There's so many things. I think at the end of the day, like we all know, like the most sustainable thing you can do is wear what you already own. So I think, you know, sustainable fashion is a little bit of a tricky field to be in, because we want people to purchase, but don't purchase too much. So there's always that balance that we have. I think the first thing is just like, it can be a very complex issue for customers to grasp. So I think that idea of progress over perfection, which ALYSSA, I know you talk a lot about, and you know, the idea that like what you have right now, you don't need to throw out your wardrobe. Like I think a lot of people think, oh my God, I have to start from scratch. I have to start all over again. No. That's really unsustainable. You need to like start wearing your closet and figuring out what you can actually utilize in your closet, and then selectively be more mindful as you are adding pieces to your closet. You don't need to start from scratch. And there's no judgment too. Like I think there's a lot of people who feel shamed for wearing what they wear, and like that's just not helping anybody. So we try to do our education in a way that's like inclusive and makes people feel a part of it and understand the why behind it. Because I think there are a lot of people out there just throwing that around, and then people feel bad about it and they're not going to share the choices that they're making. Like that eco shaming is like, oh, it's a real thing. Like I get it all the time in my DMs. People are like, did you just drive to that event? And I'm like, I had to drive.
My God.
Because they hold you to the standard, which you're like, this is not realistic.
But you didn't take a 4-minute private jet flight. Like what?
I did not. I know, but people are I remember one with a Starbucks mug. I had bought a Starbucks. This is like years ago. This is like 8 years ago. And I bought it in a cup and I forgot my reusable mug and I posted it on my Instagram. And I had like 5 or 6 comments from people being like, oh, you're like a sustainable fashion founder and you're using a throwaway cup. And I was like, oh my God, I'm never posting anything again. But this idea that you have to be perfect, like there's no founder, there's no person who's perfectly perfect. Maybe the zero waste people are like aspirationally to that level, but like a lot of us are just trying to do better every day. And so I think that's just the idea is like in slow fashion, I want consumers to just take one step every day towards that better reality instead of putting so much pressure on themselves that everything has to change all at once.
Yeah, we talk a lot about that like I guess eco perfectionism and like sustainability perfectionism and that, because, and especially when you get like the police kind of commenting that way, and then people see that, especially if it's on a public forum, it makes you like, if you're an observer, not even the creator receiving those comments, if you just see that and it's like, oh, it makes you wary and I think a little bit nervous to even get started, because then it just becomes that much more overwhelming where that pressure is that much higher on creating that habit change. And I think it deters people rather than encourages. Yeah, I like that that your focus is on I kind of like it's like the realistic way to enter that space and start like doing the mindset shift and changing the habits too.
Yeah, and I think people just don't think about what they consume enough. I think that's the thing. Like, we have this like free resource that I developed a long time ago, maybe like 6 years ago. It's like a capsule wardrobe workbook. You can get it off our website. I can send you the link so you can post it. And it's like a 20-page workbook, and it just takes you through like working through your like lifestyle. Like, what do you actually have in your closet? What do you actually need? What are you wearing the most? And it takes like a customer through that process so they can actually think about what they need in their wardrobe. I think so much of us just tend to go shopping and then buy what we kind of like gravitate towards, which is probably what we already have in our closet. Like I've done it too. Like I have so many crew neck oversized sweatshirts that I have a problem. Like I need to stop doing that. But it's like that natural tendency. We kind of go towards what we, are comfortable with. And so sometimes we just need to like step back and say, okay, what do we actually like need? What would be more functional in our closet? And do that kind of like intentional work. And I think even just slowing down and asking ourselves if we need this when we're shopping can be a really great habit to get into as well.
I love that. I love that you own a slow fashion company, or that you're the head of a slow fashion company and you're still telling people to like, wait a minute before you shop, right? I think that's got to be a hard line to walk. I don't know. I'm speaking a little bit for my audience, but I know that since when I started the channel, and I'm sure when Christina and Sina started their channels, the audience is a lot more savvy. And I'm sure you found your customers is a very different one from when you started 12 years ago. Like, why do you think slow fashion has changed since then? And is it changing for the better? Because sometimes I wonder if like we're talking about this eco-perfectionism, and now the market is very saturated and there's greenwashing and everybody's jumping on board with these sustainable terms just because they know it sells better. So what's your like pulse check on slow fashion right now?
Well, if anybody see me on social media, I'm very transparent with my thoughts. I don't hold back.
Love it.
So if we're expecting like the most positive take, it's not going to be that. I think it's very slow to get to where we need. I don't think we're moving fast enough. I don't think change is happening at a pace that we need it to happen. When you have like a fast fashion behemoth that's about to go public on the London Stock Exchange, who's saying they're small batch and using, sustainability claims and stuff like that, like the absurdity of that just like blows my mind. And I saw something the other day with a bunch of like fast and mass fashion brands, you know, talking about decarbonizing their supply chain by like 2030 or 2026. I was like, the fastest way to do that is to produce less clothing. Like, you don't need a fund to create that decarbonization and to donate to. You need, but like, that's the level of greenwashing. So I feel like we're hitting peak greenwashing, because in the consumer landscape, people are really aware of what's going on in the planet. I mean, climate change is incredibly difficult to ignore in all parts of the world on a daily basis if you watch the news. So people are aware, and they're starting to put those connections together more, which I think is good. That's way different than like 10 years ago, 12 years ago when I started. People didn't even know what that was and how that could possibly be connected. So those connections are existing. There's still that gap between people purchasing and shifting their consumption to slow fashion brands and being dragged into the fast fashion world. And I think there's a lot of responsibility that the media holds in regards to this. And same with like a lot of government agencies and stuff like that. We're starting to see a lot happen in the EU in terms of like, you know, taxing and levying duties on fast fashion, which I think is amazing. I wish our Canadian government would step up and do that as well. But there's just a lot of responsibility that, like, from a profitability standpoint, you know, the media, a lot of them work off affiliate programs and stuff like that. So they're going to push the products which are going to drive the most money for them, which is probably not the slow fashion brands. It's going to be the Amazon links and these other mass fashion brands. So all the incentives are like layered against slow fashion. So a lot of us that are kind of keep pushing that like boulder up the hill is what it feels like at times. You know, it's a slow grind. It's a slow grind. And I actually don't know one person in the industry right now who's not having a tough go, because as we've seen at least in the Canadian environment, like the inflationary environment's really high. You know, people are shifting their spending, discretionary spending, to brands probably that, you know, they know, they trust, maybe they're lower price, whatever. And I totally understand that. But that really impacts a small brand. Like even a 10% drop in revenue can like absolutely devastate a brand. And we've seen a whole bunch of them close down. So I think people aren't doing enough. People aren't doing enough, but it can't be all on the consumer is the problem. Like it's always put on the consumer, and consumers can make better choices. Absolutely. We need to take agency and vote with our wallet. But other people in this industry need to do stuff too. Like, and I think it's always put onto the consumers, which is the hard part. So I don't think we're moving fast enough at all. Like I wish it was like 20% market share at this point with the number of amazing brands that are out there in the slow fashion space. There's so many brands that are like in all different categories. There's no excuse for not shopping from one because they're all out there. But it's just a matter of like the whole mindset and industry needs to change, and they don't want to because that's where they make their money.
Yeah.
That's so
Sorry,
well
that's
said.
Not very optimistic.
No, I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's so realistic, and I feel like people don't talk about it enough because we're in our own little bubble, right? So we're seeing comments on our YouTube channels being like, "This is great. I shop my closet like 5 times this." So we're like, "Life is great," but that's why I think it's so good to get your perspective because you actually see the kind of whether things are converting or not, right, from a quantifiable perspective. So, yeah, no, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. What can consumers do? Like you said, besides voting with your wallet, like we're also citizens, right? So we maybe don't have the power to to change at the systemic level, but like what are your suggestions? Because we can vote beyond our dollar, you know, we can get involved, but what's a realistic thing that you would like to see people doing?
Definitely, like obviously, if you're in the market for something, checking out a slow fashion brand first, I think is an amazing step. But there's other ways you can support slow fashion brands that don't involve money. You can share their social media posts, you can comment on them, you can refer them to a friend, you can mention them in a room they're not in. Like all those things are free to do. In terms of advocacy, there's some great organizations like Fashion Revolution, Fashion Takes Action. People can get involved in those, do volunteer work. They do some advocacy at the government level as well, which I think is important to, you know, if you have like a government representative, you can write to them and ask for more, you know, support for the local fashion industry, local manufacturing, that type of thing. Because again, like, I think the US is much better for this, but in Canada, there's almost zero support for local manufacturing. So it's not like we get grants to produce here. Like there's no financial incentive from that perspective. There's actually more incentive to import because the duty laws favor imports. So there's a lot of stuff that could change. I think a lot of the founders in the space are trying to lead that change as much as possible. But the best thing you could do is just like, honestly, like whenever we get a customer from somebody who's just like, oh my God, I referred my best friend to you or whatever, I'm like, oh, amazing. Like it's so good. Like, you know, you don't have to spend money to help somebody be successful. It's just really kind of promoting them and helping share even their posts on like, you know, education and stuff like that. Just helping amplify that message, I think is incredibly important because there's still a bit of an echo chamber, I think, when it comes to slow fashion. Like we're all kind of talking to each other in a lot of ways. And it's like, we're all saying the same thing, but we need to break out of that and get to those people who are still consuming a lot of fast fashion, and not people that can't afford to not do that. The people who just haven't really had that like mindset shift to understand why that's bad for the planet and also potentially themselves in the materials they're wearing and stuff like that. So there's a lot of opportunity for education, but amplification and reach really help with that. So I would say those are the ways.
Yeah, we'll close out with some rapid fire questions, if you don't mind. Okay, favorite way to unplug from work?
I love to walk my dog after work. I'm surprised she hasn't come in to say hi because she's not here. I love a long walk, with her.
Amazing. Most used app or tool for productivity and organization?
Probably Reclaim. It's my calendar app. It's actually an AI app that will organize my calendar based on priorities. And it also has like a scheduling link so people can like schedule time in with me. But that has been like really incremental because I can put blocks in there and then people can't like book over those blocks and then it like automatically adjusts them. It's pretty neat.
Ooh, I want that.
Fully downloading that.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that
amazing.
one. Cool.
Me neither. Favorite way to recognize your hard work or an accomplishment?
Ooh, I don't know. That's a tough one. Maybe just go out with friends, you know? I don't know. I probably don't celebrate stuff enough. I think that's like a entrepreneur thing. I think we're always like striving towards the next goal. So I think that's a great question to remind me to do that.
It's food for me, by the way.
I love it.
Thank you for the idea.
It's usually cake for me. I'll go buy myself a cake.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
I love that.
Just a cake, a whole cake.
Amazing.
Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
What
That's
are you
a good
most
one.
excited about for Encircled in the next year?
I'm really excited to roll out this kind of crowd-funded inventory model that we're doing. We're actually going to launch, I think, 5 or 6 pieces in August for a fall delivery. And I'm just finding that really interesting to see that development process and see what people actually like. And it's kind of moving towards that produce to demand model, which is where, ironically, I started. And now I feel like I'm coming full circle back to that, which is so interesting, but in like a different way. So I'm most excited to roll that out and, see our customers get excited for our new products and really hopefully teach other people in the industry how to do that so that we can start to run businesses that are profitable and sustainable, and get some momentum behind it.
Great.
Cool.
That's amazing. And it kind of goes with the namesake.
Yeah.
It does.
Biggest accomplishment for Encircled to date?
Existing. Existing for 12 years for sure. And one of the most competitive industries in the world for sure. Yes.
Love
That's
it.
awesome.
Love it. Biggest personal or entrepreneurial accomplishment?
Ooh, again, I suck at like celebrating this kind of stuff, I feel like. I mean, I think launching my podcast, I mean, my podcast is actually pretty old. I'm obviously not very good at promoting it. I've had it for like, I think 6 or 7 years. But I think just doing that was like really big for me because I don't know about you all have a podcast, but I was like, do people want to hear me talk? Like, I think I had to like really get over myself a little bit in launching that, because I really wanted to help and serve people a lot in the e-commerce industry, because I felt like I'd been where they'd been and I wanted to help get people unstuck. But I also was like, I don't think I want to talk, I just had to really move past that, like, block I had mentally of being like too like self-promoting and whatnot, to like actually launch that. So I'm proud of that.
Can you share the name of the podcast?
Yeah, it's called the E-commerce Maven podcast.
Love it. We'll definitely leave that in the show notes. And I'm sorry, I have not listened to it, but I think I'm going to do that immediately after this. I feel like you've had so many really wonderful things really great things to share and to teach. So yeah, definitely going to check that podcast out.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Kristi, where can we find you besides your podcast?
Yeah, so you can find Encircled on Instagram. We're at Encircled, ENCIRCLED _ encircled.ca is our main website. You can find me at Kristi Soomer on Instagram and KristiSoomer.com. You can find my podcast.
Amazing.
Great.
Amazing. Kristi, thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining in our conversation this week. If you're enjoying the show, we'd love it if you subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and Apple and leave us a rating and review. It's one of the best ways to support the Sustain This podcast at zero cost to you.
We're also a community-led podcast, so if you have any questions for us, topic requests, or even guests you want to hear from, please send us a DM on Instagram at sustainthis_podcast. We read all of our comments and look forward to hearing from you.
We hope you join us again next Tuesday, where we'll talk about so much more than clothes. Ciao!